So, if you've logged into Pokemon TCG Live in 2026, you might have noticed something interesting. For a long time, the trainer trials icon was Eevee, and now it's Budew. That might seem like a small UI change, but in Pokemon TCG, spotlighting a card like this usually isn't accidental. And when you combine that with what Budew actually does in the current format, yeah, there's a reason people are paying attention. So today, I want to walk through why Budew matters right now, what its ability actually does, how we can build around it, and then we'll take it into a couple of games and see if the hype is justified. Budew has always been kind of a background Pokemon. Cute, low stats, not something you expect to define games. But this version of Budew has quietly become one of the most disruptive one-prize cards in the format. What's important here is that this isn't about damage numbers. This is about tempo. Specifically, denying your opponent access to item cards at critical points in the game. And in modern Pokemon TCG, items are the engine. Cut those off even for a single turn, and the entire game slows to a crawl. Budew's attack, Itchy Pollen, does a very modest 10 damage, but the effect is the real story. After Budew attacks, your opponent can't play item cards during their next turn. That means no search items, no switching cards, no recovery tools, no emergency outs. And the kicker? It costs basically nothing to use. You're not investing energy. You're not committing your board. You're just flipping a switch that says you don't get to play the game the way you want this turn. That single turn of disruption is often enough to completely change how a game plays out. So, the question isn't, can Budew win games? The real question is, what kind of deck benefits the most from buying an extra turn? As you can tell from the Pokemon on screen, this is not a Budew-centric deck, this is a Budew enabler deck. The goal here is to slow your opponent down long enough for your engine to come online safely. So we're going to be pairing up Budew with Pokemon that either need setup time, that benefit from opponents missing search, or that punish awkward board states. And you're also not upset if Budew gets KO'd. If your opponent has to burn a turn inefficiently just to deal with a one-prize Pokemon, you're already ahead. And that's the mindset you need with this card and with this deck. So as you can see, we've got Ursaluna EX, which is a time-gated card for prize cards. So hopefully as the game goes on, Blood Moon will get cheaper and cheaper to play. Then we've got Munkidori, which also has a time-linked effect. If we have Dark Energy on Munkidori, we can just keep moving damage counters onto our opponent's Pokemon. We have our Crown Jewel Budew. We have a Pheasantipede for draw. We have Frostlass for continued damage. And again, Frostlass gets more powerful as the game goes on. And when with Budew, we're hoping to slow the game to a crawl and to keep proliferating those damage counters. And then finally we have a Rellor, we have two Snoruns to feed into Frostlass, and then we have a Rabsca, which is bench protection on our side of the field. So those are the Pokemon we've got, and then trainers. We have Countercatcher, Precious Trolley, Lively Stadium. Lively Stadium, remember, each basic Pokemon gets plus 30 HP. We have a couple of rescues. We have Pokegear to scry 7 and reveal a supporter card. We have Penny. We have Enhanced Hammer to discard special energy from our opponent's Pokemon. We have Iono for draw and disruption. We have Artazan to make sure we can get basic Pokemon out. We have Arven to research things like technical machines and enhanced hammers, redeemable ticket, etc., etc. We have Earthen Vessel for energy draw. We have Buddy Poffin to again reliably get basic Pokemon on the field. We have a redeemable ticket to count our prize cards, shuffle them, and then put them on the bottom and take that many cards from the top, basically cycling our prize cards around. We have Nest Ball. We have a Professor's Research just in case we get completely bricked. We have two Ultra Balls again, and then of course we have a Gravity Gemstone. And last but not least, for energy, we have 4 basic Dark Energy, which of course are required to feed back into Munkidori's Adrenabrain ability. So that's the deck, that's the list. Now that you've seen that, let's hop into a couple of matches and see how this deck plays. We're going to stick with casual because I've never played this deck before and I just put it together, which also Shout out on Reddit to the user Nillagrilla, who posted this deck list, and that's where I got it from. So shout out to them. A link to that will be in the description down below. Okay, so let's take this into a couple of games and see how it actually performs. All right, it's my first turn. So I'm going to draw, then I'm going to drop down a Snorunt, and then I'm going to play Budew-focused to get 2 more copies of Budew onto my bench and really set myself up for success to stall as long as possible. And then finally, before I end my turn, I will hit Itchy Pollen, and we will start stacking these damage counters. It's my turn again. I have evolved my Frostlass. I'm now going to play an Earthen Vessel to pull 2 energy. I'm going to get rid of my redeemable ticket because I don't think I need it right now. So I've got my 2 energy, and then I'm going to hit with Itchy Pollen again, and then I'm going to let Frostlass do what Frostlass do. Here my opponent is going to take out my Budew, but like I mentioned earlier in the video, we don't really care. We have 2 more on the bench. We have a Night Stretcher. We can pull it back out of the graveyard. We are hunky-dory. Freezing Shroud is going to take effect, and we're just going to keep stacking those damage counters, and then it is our turn. So we'll throw a Pokegear here, and we'll pull another Arven. And then we're going to immediately play that Arven to pull a Nest Ball. And we don't really necessarily need it, but there's no point in not pulling the Technical Machine de-evolution as well. We'll play the Nest Ball, which of course gives us our Ursaluna. And like I mentioned, this is kind of the setup here. Budew is not the main engine. It is just a stall tactic so that we can get our main engine online. And then finally, we'll wrap up the turn by hitting Itchy Pollen again. We'll add 1 more damage counter to Chi-Yu, and then we'll let Frostlass do its thing and proliferate all those damage counters. Now, one thing to note, if you'll notice, my Ursaluna also has an ability, meaning it is subject to Frostlass's ability. So that is something to keep in mind if you have other ability Pokemon on your bench that maybe don't have the 260 HP that Ursaluna has. Unfortunately, it was about here where I realized I had unintentionally bricked myself with the professor's research. While I did draw good cards, what I was not paying attention to was that I had just discarded the last 2 energy in my deck, meaning that I now have Pokemon sitting in my hand that have energy-based abilities that I cannot use. On top of that, because I discarded those 2 energies, I now have nothing to put on my Ursaluna, which, while my opponent has taken 2 prize cards, which does reduce the cost of its attack, not enough. So I am effectively dead in the water. And at this point, there was no point in continuing, so I conceded the match and decided to put a stop to my torture. So that didn't work out too well, but let's hop into another match and let's see how things went. On my first turn, I'm going to draw my Nest Ball. Then I'll play Budew-focused, which will give me a Budew, and it will also give me a Snorunt, so that I can work on getting Frostlass on the bench. I will then play my Nest Ball to get my Monkey-Dory, to also start that damage counter proliferation. I will attach an energy to Monkey-Dory, and then I'm going to use Arven to grab a couple of cards. I'm going to grab a rescue board, excuse me, and then I'm also going to grab an Earthen Vessel. You can tell from my first match that I have learned my lesson, and I am now prioritizing energy and keeping it in my hand and where I can track it. So then we'll attach the rescue board to Relor so that we can retreat him for 0. We'll pop Budew out on the field for our Itchy Pollen, and then we will play Earthen Vessel, discard our additional rescue board, and pull 2 more energy into the hand. And then As we do, we will swing with Itchy Pollen to put a damage counter on and kick everything off. We got our next turn very quickly because without being able to play item cards, our opponent is effectively stalled, which is what we're going for. So we're going to throw an Arven, and we are going to pull an Ultra Ball as well as another Devolution. And then we are going to use that Ultra Ball, and we are going to pull our Frostlass. And then we're going to evolve Snorunt to Frostlass on the bench. And then we will swing with Itchy Pollen and add those damage counters. And now that Frostlass is on the bench, Freezing Shroud starts to take effect, and you start to see that damage counter proliferation engine really start to work. Several turns later, we're going to see Monkey Dory's effect pay off, as we are going to use it to take out the opponent's benched Charmeleon. Now you can also see here that I try and use the ability incorrectly. I try and split the damage counters between the Ho-Oh and the Charmeleon, but that is not how Monkey Dory's ability works. Monkey Dory's ability moves 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. I pull my prize card, and it is another Frostlass. I'll use Pokegear to get another Arven, and we'll keep on keeping on. I use that Arven to grab a Precious Trolley, which I am now going to use to get another copy of Snorunt. I whiffle waffle here for a little bit, but then I realize what I'm supposed to be doing, and I pull my Snorunt out, I throw it on the bench, and that sets me up to get a second Frostlass next turn. Finally, the combo of 2 Freezing Shrouds on the bench does its job, and we take out the opponent's Ho-Oh, and because he has no benched Pokemon, once this stack resolves and we both pull our prize cards, I win the game. So, after seeing this in action, I think Budew earns its spotlight. Not because it's flashy necessarily, but because it's efficient. This isn't a card you build your entire deck around, but it is a card that can swing games for, as you just saw, for no cost. I think I played 1 energy the entire time and had 2 in my hand. If your deck cares about tempo, cares about setup, or forcing awkward turns, Budew is absolutely worth testing. Let me know in the comments if you've tried Budew already, what lists you're running it in, or if you think it's just a short-term meta experiment. And if you want to see refinements to this deck or more testing, let me know. I'd be happy to keep iterating on it. Alright, that's going to do it for me today, and I will see you in the next one.